Hi, and welcome back to my project life process for the camping trip that we took in early September. This is part 3 of a 4-part series, so I'm linking the first video in a card here in the top right hand corner. You can check that out, and then that one links to the second one, and then you can come back to this third one, and let's get started. So where I left off was doing the first card of the third page that I'm working on here, and I just need to clean up my Misty tool. It got a little bit messy with some of the pigment inks that I was using on previous pages, and I have pulled out some card making supplies to use in my project life this time. I have the Coaster Critters stamp set from Lawn Fawn, and I also have the coordinating dies, which I just keep in the same pocket with the stamps. I just keep them behind. And I am actually going to stamp doubles because I want 2 of the car and I also want 2 of one of the critters. And even though I only need 1 of everything else, I'm going to double stamp them all so that if I make a mistake in my coloring, I have a backup image that I can go to. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I try to always put my stamps away as soon as I'm finished stamping them so that I don't lose anything, because my space can get quite cluttered, especially for project life. So from the magic of video editing, I have already colored those in. I don't have a huge collection of Copic markers, and so I just used what I had. I wanted the roller coaster to be wooden because the roller coaster at that park, there's only one roller coaster, and it is an old-fashioned wooden one. And the whole theme of the park is old-fashioned, kind of low technology type of rides and stuff. And so I wanted the coaster to look like the coasters at Upper Clements Park. And then I colored in 2 of the cars because there's going to be a car for me and a car for my husband. And yeah, I just used the colors that I had. I don't have a huge selection, as I mentioned. I wish I had better colors for the fox. I just couldn't pick out the right colors for him, but I like the little gray bunny. And I'm not going to put the marker colors that I used because it's like just obviously I just winged it and used what I could. And I'm just lining up all of the coordinating dies for each of these images, and I'm going to run it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6. This is the die cut machine that I've been using as my machine of choice lately. I do have the Big Shot as well, and they both work equally. I do like the Big Shot, and I have more of the accessories and stuff that go with the Big Shot, like different cutting mats and stuff. But what I really like about the Spellbinders machine is that it folds up into a very small footprint on my shelf, and so it's really easy to keep it on the shelf right beside me as I work, and that makes it easier for me to grab it. But my Big Shot is also well loved. So as you can see, I'm just popping out the dies, and I left this part in because I find this really satisfying, and I thought you guys might want to watch this part. And so I love using my die cut machine. I just love it when these little pieces come out and they have this perfect little outline around them, this perfect little white outline. They're just so cute. It's very fun, very, very fun. So I cut out all of the pieces now, and I'm just putting them into my little pleather valet tray that I keep for scrapbooking supplies. I got that at Chapters in Indigo. And now I am going to do some less than stellar inking on my background cards. So you saw a few minutes ago, I cut 2 4x6 cards that will be my backgrounds. That might have been in the other video actually, but I did cut these from regular cardstock in my stash. It's not cardstock that's particularly good for blending. I think it's like 80 pound. It might be Nina. It could be Stampin' Up. I don't know what it is. But this is not going to be the nicest cloud and ground background that you've ever seen, but that's okay because it is project life. I always say about project life that there are so many cards all together in your book that any problematic card that doesn't look the greatest or whatever, it's never going to stand out because it is amongst a whole bunch of other cards. So Project Life is a really great place for you to just kind of wing it and go with the flow, and don't be too obsessive or dwelling on your negative results. Just kind of go with it. This one is turning out better than the second one will, but you can still see all those marks. Like, that's not the way that this usually looks when I do it on a card. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I thought I would just add some more ink to try to make those. I wasn't really blending it as much as I usually do. Like, I'm not sticking with it. I'm moving on faster than I normally do. So normally I would blend all that until all those marks were gone. But instead, I just moved on. I was like, oh, I don't know. I felt rushed, or not even really rushed, but I just wanted to do this and get to building my roller coaster scene. And so I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this. Also, a good part of this is going to be covered by the scene itself, right? So here we go. And I do start blending. So I start blending on the stencil. So this is a stencil from MFT. I got it at Crop and Create last year. It was something that I purchased from the store at Crop and Create after I saw Christine Davidson using it. She was sitting at my table and I was in love with this product. And so I immediately went up and bought the last one of these clouds and also the ground. And so as you can see, you just kind of start on the stencil and just blend your way up into the sky. And I'm not happy with the way this is turning out. So I keep looking at the back and thinking I should just flip it over and do it all over again. But I can't remember if I did or not. I think I might have flipped it over, and this is my second attempt, which is still not that great of an attempt. But anyhow, what I love about these stencils is that there are different versions. Like, there are really hilly hills and then really flat hills. And also the same see, I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to turn it over and use these clouds that I abandoned a few minutes ago because I really didn't like how the ground turned out on the other one. And then you do have to kind of flip it upside down to get your ground, to get a nice crisp separation between on your horizon, between your land and your sky. You just flip it around. There we go. So the color I'm using here is Mowed Lawn. Is that what it's called? Mowed Lawn and Peacock Feathers. And if you were to blend a couple of different colors of blue and a couple of different colors of green, it would look even nicer. But as I said, I'm in a bit of a rush. I'm not even bothering to blend out my little edges and stuff. And as you can see, it's done. It's good. And now I get to do the fun part, which is building a cute little scene on this card. But first, oh, what am I doing? Oh, I got some green in my sky. Oh, well, that's okay. That's okay too, right? I accidentally touched my blue foam to the green part, and I've got some green in my sky, but that's okay. I'll just make sure that my scene covers that up. I just thought that the white there was a little bit too stark, so I wanted to go back and add a little bit more peacock feather to the sky. I'm trying to clean this up so that the next time I use these stencils, I don't put down ink on something that I don't mean to, because these are distress inks and they're water activated, which means that if my hands are wet or if I've got a baby wipe or something, they'll reactivate on the plastic of the stencil and make a mess on me, and more importantly, on my project. So isn't this adorable? I kind of spaced it out so that it almost looks like the scene carries on into the photo. That's what I wanted it to look like anyways. But I didn't want to have to bother with putting trees and stuff in the scene that I was building. But it looks enough like that. So I'm just spacing it out just to see how this is all going to look together. And oh, I love it. It's really, really cute. And as you can see, once you add the photos to the page, it really doesn't look that bad. Also, I'm going to run my bracelet across the bottom of the card on the left, and so that will cover up some of the grassy hill that's very blotchy. So I just adhered that large photo over on the far right, and now I'm going to have the little ticket booth, which I should have stamped tickets on it, and then I already put the dimensional adhesive on the back of it by the time I thought of stamping the word tickets on the booth. So I just decided to leave the booth plain. And I'm using pop dots, like Stampin' Up! Dimensional adhesive, in order to pop my larger roller coaster up so that it looks like it's closer to you. And then the smaller little bit of roller coaster is, I want it to look like it's kind of off in a little bit further in the distance. So, but still part of the same roller coaster, kind of like making it look like it's a roller coaster with lots of bumps and goes off in the distance. So here I am just figuring out where it's going to go and using a combination of dimensional adhesive and flat tape runner so that I can stick it down to my card base, and I'm just putting it around the horizon, and I'm also positioning it so that one of the cards can cover the green spot in the sky that I accidentally put on there. So it's going to be this card with a little fox in it, and I'm specifically putting 2 people on the roller coaster because that ties into one of the stories that I'm going to tell on one of my 3x4 cards that's going to go beneath this 4x6 card. So I just used my tape runner, which you have to be a little bit careful to make sure that you're actually getting sticky on this because this is one of those waxy bracelets. And I got it to work. There we go. You could use glue dots as well. They might stick a little bit better than a tape runner would. But there are my 2 cards, and I'm pretty pleased with them. I think they're adorable. They make this cute little scene, and I love the little selfie at the front of Upper Clements Park with the little statue behind us. That statue is of 2 kids kind of running and waving their arms like, wee, and very celebratory type of a statue. So I'm going to put all of my pop dots away. I don't use a whole lot of pop dots in Project Life because I don't want it to be too thick. I have a bunch of pages. I try to get as much into one album as I possibly can with Project Life, and you'll get to see my Project Life album at the end of video 4. So I'm just having a look at these Kelly Purkey letter stickers. I love the black ones, and I want to spell out Upper Clements Park, which is the title of the place that we went, on that rainbow card that's in the center. So I'm a little bit off of my normal process, which is usually I pick all of the backgrounds and then I do my scrapbooking. But as I mentioned, I was eager to get scrapbooking with those cute little roller coaster pieces. So I just dove in and did the top 2 cards, and now I'm just doing the title card here in the center, because all of this page is going to be from Upper Clements Park. So I had to just kind of look at which letters I have, and I was missing a P, but that's okay because I'm going to make my own P. I forget how I do it, but I'm going to do it. So I have to figure out which letters are in the center in order for me to do that. So oh yes, the reason I didn't have enough P's is that I used a P to make a comma before, or a quotation mark. When I put social media and put quotation marks around social, there's only one comma or quotation mark on each set of stickers. So I took a P, a tail of a P, which I shouldn't have done because that's a popular letter. But anyhow, I just grabbed something else to make the leg of that P so that I had a full set. And now what I'm deciding to do here is the second last letter of each word is going to be slanted and kind of falling down. And I'm doing that for a reason. So first of all, it's easier to line these up because they're straight lines. So remember I said in one of the other videos that I used a bouncing baseline on almost all of my titles and phrases in this set of Project Life pages because it just makes it easier. You can do it fast and it's no big deal. But for this one, I'm lining them up because it's easy. I can just follow the lines on the actual card. But the thing about Upper Clements Park is that it is kind of falling apart. It's one of those, it was like a government subsidized park. Oh, so here I am. I actually did need another P, and I just took the gray letter stickers because they're the exact same font, and I colored it in with a permanent marker. It was a Staedtler Lumo Color pen, which is my favorite permanent marker. So it's one of those government subsidized projects that happened in the 90s, I think, and ended, or maybe in the 80s. I can't remember when, anyhow. And it wasn't really as good for the economy as they were hoping it would be. And it's kind of changed hands. And I think it's more private now than it was before, but it's kind of falling apart and in need of quite a lot of work. If you look at the details, like when you stop, if you're just kind of walking through, it's fun and enjoyable. But if you sit and eat someplace, you'll see lots of details that are not so nice. So anyhow, we do love our little park, but it's, it's kind of falling apart. And we joke about that every time we go. So I wanted the title to just have that little, it's almost like a little inside joke. I didn't want to say, Upper Columbus Park, it's falling apart, but because it's really not. It's just kind of like the cosmetics of the park are not as, see, you need to use your Misty, Tracy. Use it every single time. Can you see my frustration with that? I actually chucked the block because I was like, I knew I should have been using my Misty for this. So I messed up the stamping, and you just can't double stamp with a clear acrylic block. So I'm abandoning that. I really loved that card, and I really wanted that card to work, but we'll put it on this pink striped card instead. Using my stamp chamois to clean, and my tip for the stamp chamois is that it tends to dry out quickly, so I put a little plastic bag on top of it. If you didn't see my other videos, you wouldn't know that, but I thought I'd mention it again. So see, it's good to have that Misty or any kind of stamping tool. I mentioned in one of the other videos that I do have the Tim Holtz positioner too, and I like that too, but this one is so tiny, it fits so nicely on my desk. I really love it. So the ink I was using there was Midnight Muse by Stampin' Up. It's a really, really dark inky blue. I love that color. And I'm also, and the stamps are various stamps from a Kelly Purkey set. This one says Let's Go, and I'm actually going to get a less dark ink here. This is Island Indigo, which is probably my very favorite blue ink ever. I love this color. That and Pool Party, both by Stampin' Up, are my favorite blue inks. And so this card is kind of okay. It's a little bit mediocre, but it is done. The ride is mediocre too, so there, it matches. It's one of those old-fashioned cars where you basically just press the gas. You can't really steer it because it's on a track. But anyhow, we love this park. I am sounding as if I hate this park, but we love it. It's fun. And what I really love about it is that even though none of the rides are particularly thrilling, it's really nice because because there's no other option, we all just go on all of the small rides and have a lot of fun doing it. And yeah, it's really nice. And the park is never all that crowded, and so you don't have to wait in big long lines. It's just a really nice, wholesome day. It's quite nice. So the Ferris wheel is always my favorite part of it. I actually didn't go on the Ferris wheel this time because I went on the carousel. They have a gorgeous carousel that's in the middle of the woods, and you just kind of walk along a path, and suddenly there's this beautiful carousel with all the beautiful horses. We had gone on the carousel right before we went on the Ferris ride, and I was taking videos of the kids, and my brain got very mixed up and nauseous from not looking straight ahead when I'm going around and around and around in circles. And so I just needed to sit down while the kids went on the Ferris wheel. That's the first time I've ever gotten sick at a fair, ever. I always go on all the rides and I never, ever, ever get sick. So I picked out this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I want to do a card. I want to make a card that's going to tell the story of how I wanted to say number of kids who would come on the roller coaster with us, 0. That's what I wanted. But there is no 0 on this. I thought about spelling out 0 and then crossing off all the other ones, and then I decided to do this instead. What I'm writing is number of kids who would go on the roller coaster with us, and then I'm going to cross out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in brackets I'm putting we went on it without them. Now we didn't have 5 kids with us. We only had 2, but you get the point. I don't know. I guess I did that wrong and I flipped it over And now I'm going to use a thicker marker to scratch out the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that works. It tells the story in just a more interesting way than to say, neither of the kids wanted to go on the roller coaster with us. Neither of our kids are really big into thrill rides, so this is actually a good park for us to go to. We went to Canada's Wonderland when we went to Toronto 2 years ago, and it costs a fortune for a family to get a pass to go to that park. And the kids literally refused to go on almost everything. They went on a few little rides that are really similar to the rides that just come to the regular everyday fair when they come in the summer. So this kind of a park where the rides are much more tame is at least more worth our while and our money. There's a flume ride that has quite a drop and it's quite a thrill ride, but they wouldn't go on it. That and the roller coaster are the two rides that they pretty much refuse. So remember a few minutes ago while I was chatting, I took that Ferris wheel, which I also printed out in a larger format. The larger ones are printed at 4x4. And I attached it to that multicolored card that has wide bands of color on one side and then narrow bands of color on the other side. Well, I'm looking to do some stamping there. And I have this stamp that says, "Today is a very good day." And I thought I would do some stamping that might kind of mimic or replicate the colors that are on the card already. But I didn't want to do masking and fussy stamping. So I have this ombre ink pad that I got from, I think I got it from the Ink Road when I ordered some stamps from them. They sent me this just as a little freebie, which was awesome because I've never used this ombre ink before. So as you see, I just put it on there and stamped it. And I did double stamp it, even though like it might not have been perfect. And what that actually did, because it wasn't lined up exactly perfectly, is it actually made the blend a little bit more smooth than it would have been if I didn't double stamp it. Because it wasn't exact and some of the blue overlapped with the green and it just got a little bit more blendy looking, which I like. I'm using the thick side of my Zig Writer, which is a 0.7 tip, and that gives me a nice bold outline and just outlining that. So some of my cards are quite plain, as you can see. I thought about adding some to that Let's Go card, and I just decided not to. What am I going to say? It's the antique cards. You can tell by seeing that. I don't really have much else to say about it. As you can tell, I don't really love this card, and this card here kind of reminds me of the speedometer on a car. So I thought about maybe using that, and I thought, no, that's not going to be much better than the card I already have here, so I'm just going to go with the one that I have. They don't all have to be masterpieces. I'm just moving everything over to a plain white piece of 12 by 12 cardstock, and I'm pulling out what's left of my photos. And so as I kind of place them out, I can see that I don't really have enough for a full page here. So I thought what I'd do is an insert with what's left. So my insert will be a 4x6 and 2 3x4s underneath of it. I'm going to put them side by side, but they're going to be back to back. So I'm just keeping that propane there because I am thinking that I'll probably want to tell a story about the propane issue. And so that's what that's there for. I had this paper. Where was this paper? I think it might have been in my scraps, and I really like it and thought it would make a really cool 4x6 card. In fact, it'll make 2 really cool 4x6 cards. So I cut it apart, and I'm going to put the s'more on this one. And there was a stamp that I had in mind for this one. It's in this Kelly Purkey stamp set, and it's 2 stamps actually. One says I ate this, and underneath it says it was delicious. And they're 2 separate stamps, and I love using them together like this. I've used them a couple of different times throughout my project life. Now I'm actually remembering to use my powder tool, which I usually forget. At least I remember it when I'm making cards, but I seem to forget when I'm scrapbooking. So I am just stamping this with VersaFine, which does stay wet long enough to do some embossing. So I'm using some clear embossing powder over this so that you'll basically be able to see it. And it'll just be slightly shinier than if I just left it as the black ink. And I find that clear embossing powder doesn't give you as much of a bumped up look as black embossing powder does. So if I had put black embossing powder, I think I would have gotten a bumpier look, but it doesn't really matter. It's behind plastic, so you can't really see it anyways. But using the clear embossing powder over the VersaFine just gives it a bit of a brighter look and makes it even darker. That ink is already quite dark, but that just darkens it up. So I'm putting that tiny little 2x2 photo right there between those two stamped phrases. I ate this and it was delicious. And here I'm going to write, one of the best things about camping is all the delicious food. Then I'm going to underline it, and what made me stop here, I haven't actually put food yet, is that I'm thinking, wait a minute, I wrote that actually further than I should have. I meant to end that phrase so that it didn't overhang, like I didn't want it to hang over the I ate this. I didn't want those two lines to overlap. Anyhow, it is what it is, and I have other plans for the rest of that card, and I think it'll look okay. At this point, I'm actually getting tired and I feel like I'm not making the best design choices. And here's one of them. I want to put this nom 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 in between these two pictures of the nachos, the close-up picture and then the context picture that shows it on the fire pit and with the trailer behind it, with the camper behind it. I love the nom 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 stamp. It just reminds me of Cookie Monster saying nom 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 nom. I just love it. And so I leave myself in this predicament of not knowing what else to do with this card because it's got this weird symmetry going on that most of my cards don't ever have. And so I'm going to put a title above it. I'm using more Kelly Purkey sentiments, like letter stickers, sorry. And I'm spelling out campfire nachos with first gray letter stickers, and because I'm running out of the black. And then I'm going to use the green to spell out nachos. And I'm using the bouncing baseline so that I can do it quick and not have to think too much about, lining it all up and using tools and that sort of thing. And as I do it, I'm not really loving how it's turning out because it just feels weird. It feels strangely balanced with these two big photos on either side and then the title in the middle. It just doesn't appeal to me from a design perspective. So what I thought I'd do is add some washi tape. Washi tape is one of those products that I really only use in project life. And I use it as a tool, like I use it to hold things down temporarily. So that looks a little bit better, but I need some more washi tape. I need some above it and some below it. And that first washi tape is actually from Carpe Diem from Simple Stories. I never know what brand washi tape I have, but this one happens to have the brand inside of the roll, so I can just look at it and tell you. And then this one is from Bella Boulevard. It also has the brand inside the roll. That's a good idea that they do that. And I'm just wrapping it around. I've got plenty of washi tape. I don't have to be stingy. So there you go. And I'm actually, see the one on the bottom left-hand side, the stripy part is not quite long enough. I'm going to fix that, but I think I fix it off screen. So at some point you'll see that that's changed. And that's what I did. I just added another bit of washi tape over top of the washi tape that was already there so that it extends a little bit further. Now I have these journaling pieces in my stash. They're from October afternoon. So obviously they're pretty old. And I just wanted to use them as part of the second part of this story. Now, this scrapbooking is happening on a different day. So up until now, all three of the videos have included scrapbooking from yesterday, and now it's a new day. And remember how I said I was getting tired and making poor design design decisions because of it. Well, I think I kind of get myself back on track. I went to bed and got up early, and here I am. And I think that it looks better what I do next. So here's the journaling on this one. It says I can't see it from where I'm at. We noticed a propane smell inside the camper on the first day, so we had to use only the campfire for the rest of our meals. So we really only got to cook one meal, and then we went inside the camper and it was smelling really, really bad. We do have a propane detector in our camper, and apparently propane will smell really, really bad, even with a very small amount of propane. So I don't think we were in danger of poisoning ourselves or anything. We just aired out the camper and the smell went away right away. And apparently if you don't smell, we looked it up and everything, if you don't smell propane, you're probably safe, and because it smells really, really strong for that very reason, to keep you safe. And so anyhow, we just didn't use propane for the rest of our trip and we were fine. We're still alive. So I have this bad news stamp from Studio L2E. It has some curse words and also some kind of expletives that are symbols. And so I put that on here because it's kind of like, crap, like we worked so hard to get this camper working and then we get there and there's a propane leak. But anyhow, this is life and this is what happens when you buy a very, very, very cheap camper. Good thing we're handy. So anyhow, I wanted to put a little flag on this because it's like a little journaling card on top of my other card. So I just found this little flag. It's a little plastic flag. I forget what company makes it. It might be a Simple Stories product. Putting some adhesive to stick it to the back of, onto the card, and then I'll stick the card onto the 4x6 card, and then that one is done. Those little plastic pieces do have a little bit of plastic coating on them to keep them from scraping against one another, so you can take the time to take that off if you like. You don't really have to because you can't even really tell that it's on there. I had to really dig to find the edge of it. And I outlined just to kind of give it a pulled together look. Now I'm going to do more stamping on this photo because this photo has a lot of black on it. And as I mentioned in the other video where I did another campfire photo, I absolutely adore the look of the Brilliance gold ink on black parts of a photo. I also mentioned that I like my photos that feature a lot of black on them, I like them to be lower in my Project Life spread. Now, what was happening is that these stamps, I find that some of the older Kelly Purkey stamp sets have lost their clinginess to them. It's like they've gotten dried out and they stamp well, but they don't stick to any blocks or anything. So I just put a little bit of tape runner on it to make it stick to my MISTI tool. And that worked perfectly. As you can tell, it stamped really well. And using my stamp chamois to clean that off. It is pigment ink and it will stain your stamps. As you can see, the word yum it was stamped in that gold ink and I didn't clean it up and it's stained on there, but it's fine. It still stamps fine. This is the photo that goes along with that other one. So the first one is a photo of the pie iron sitting in the fire. And then this is a photo of Scott holding the pie from the pie iron. And I thought this was a real woodsy looking masculine card with the forest green and the blue. I'm going to matte this photo in craft because I'm trying to just add a little bit of craft every here and there to go along with that craft card that I added somewhere in the middle of this series of videos. It's not really craft, it's faux craft. It is, I think it's called Brown Sugar by Stampin' Up, and it's actually quite a bit less attractive than actual craft cardstock, but it's okay. I'm only using it in smallish amounts, except for that one big card that I used. And then this photo also has this big shadowy area in it, so I thought I would add the yes please. I considered using less yes please on the other card, but I used Bon Appetit because the yes please was just too small for that space, but the yes please is perfect for this space. So And those are both Kelly Purkey stamp sets. Almost everything I'm using here, the cards, the stamps, are all Kelly Purkey, but as I've mentioned as I have gone along, I'm also using various Lawn Fawn stamps as well. So I've told the propane story, and now I have this photo of Scott at home, and this photo was actually taken as soon as we got home. Scott unhitched the camper and immediately started finding where the propane leak is. And there's a way to do it. You use a little misty bottle with some soap in it, like just dish soap, and it bubbles up where the leak is. Like it makes suds on the outside of the pipe. Anyhow, that doesn't matter. I'm talking about my process here. So I just used a partial card, cut it down, used it as a mat, and left some lines on it so that I could do some journaling. My journaling says, as soon as we got home, Scott found the leak and fixed it. And that's a picture of him on the floor of our garage. This is where I spent a lot of time in the renovation of the camper. My job was to lay on my back and pull nails and staples out of the bottom of the floor of the camper. It was a very glamorous job. So I'm actually going to stop this one here and leave a little bit less than half an hour on my final video. So look for part 4 of this series. I will link it on the screen at the very end. Part 4 is actually quite interesting. I'll encourage you to check it out because not only does it show the final touches and last minute changes that I make to these pages and also how I do the insert, but it also shows the approach that I use for time that is missed in my project life. So this is the first time I've done pocket scrapbooking in quite some time. And so there's a big gap of almost a year between my last pocket pages and these pocket pages. And so I'm going to make a very simple page that addresses that gap and prepares the viewer of my album for this sudden jump forward in time. So be sure that you check out part 4 of this video, which is linked here on this page. I'll also put some other links here for you. Leave me a comment below letting me know how you are doing with your pocket scrapbooking. If you do it at all, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.